Welcome back. Today our video is about how ancient wars were fought. But before that, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Let's find out. Ancient warfare is war, as conducted from the beginnings of recorded history to the end of the ancient period. Early warfare and military tactics. Warfare certainly did not begin in 2700 BCE, however. The earliest pictographs of armies at war come from the kingdom of Kish, dated to about 3500 BCE. Jericho, which, along with Uruk, has a claim to the title of the world's oldest city, has provided archaeologists with solid evidence that a fortified city stood on the site before 7000 BCE. The walls of the fortress were 10 feet thick and 13 feet high, surrounded by a moat 30 feet wide and 10 feet deep, strongly suggesting the importance of defense. The simple bow was in use in Mesopotamia as early as 10,000 BCE, and cemeteries from northern Mesopotamia to Egypt attest to early warfare on a fairly significant scale. Evidence from a conflict, which took place at Jebel Sahaba, Egypt, at the so-called Site 117, 59 skeletons were uncovered, all of whom show clear evidence of violent death. At about the same time, war in ancient Mesopotamia was waged by infantry shock troops, until the introduction of the composite bow from Egypt. By 1782 BCE, Lower Egypt had been largely taken by the Hyksos, a Semitic people of unknown origin, who introduced superior technological advances into Egypt. Along with the war chariot, bronze weapons, and new tactics, the Hyksos brought the advance of the composite bow. Prior to the coming of the Hyksos, the Egyptian army had used simple bows of wood or cane with a range of around 33 feet, while the composite bow was capable of delivering a mighty blow out to 656 feet. The development of the composite bow would change the way in which war was waged, in that shock troops, who were massed closely together, made easy targets for archers, while looser formations invited decimation by opposing shock troops. This led to changes in battle formations, generally, and the development of military tactics. Armies and their development. Armies contain two types of infantry: shock troops, whose purpose was to close with the opposing forces, and try to break their lines, and peltasts, who were more mobile, and moved in a looser formation in order to fire long-range weapons at the enemy. According to the historian Simon Anglem, infantry is the backbone of any army, being the one unit that can attack or defend equally effectively. The majority of battles have turned on the infantry's ability to close with the enemy and kill him, and this holds true, in most cases, even after the introduction of cavalry units and the war chariot. The earliest armies were relatively small corps of shock troops, until the introduction of peltast units. At the Battle of Megiddo, in 1479 BCE, the Egyptian army numbered 20,000. By the time Shalmaneser III ruled over the Assyrian Empire, in 845 BCE, armies had grown in mass and size. Shalmaneser's forces in his campaigns numbered over 120,000. The Assyrians required large armies owing to their policy of territorial expansion and ruthless suppression of revolt against central rule, and, in this, they epitomized the underlying cause of war, the tribe mentality. Military formations and technology. The earliest formation was the phalanx, which was first employed in Sumer, 3000 BCE, and would become the standard for infantry formations for thousands of years. It was made famous at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE, when the Greeks employed it effectively to rout the Persians. Was perfected by Alexander the Great, 332 BCE, on his campaigns, and was made more formidable by the armies of Rome. The phalanx was employed, in one form or another, by most of the fighting forces in the ancient world. The Greeks employed cavalry to protect the flanks, and the Thebans used a combination of cavalry, infantry, and peltasts. the introduction of the war chariot, and, later, the use of elephants in battle, supplemented the role of the infantry, but never diminished their importance. War has been an important factor in creating states and empires throughout history, and, equally so, in destroying them. Major advances in science, technology, and engineering have been brought about through necessity during times of war. It is written that the army of King Croesus of Lydia, 560 to 547 BCE, was once stopped in their advance by the Halys River, which seemed impossible to cross. The philosopher Thales of Miletus, a member of Croesus' army, had a crew of engineers dig a channel upstream, giving it a crescent shape, so that it should flow round the back of where the army was encamped, being diverted in this way from its old course, and passing the camp, should flow into its old course once more. Once the river was made shallow in both channels, it was, of course, easy to cross. Stories such as this provide examples of the importance of engineers in the practice of war. The increasing development of military tactics, or, in this case, geographical obstacles, necessitated a corps of engineers as a regular part of any army. The armies of Alexander the Great, and of Rome, are well known for their use of engineers in warfare, most notably by Alexander at the Siege of Tyre, 332 BCE, and by Julius Caesar at the Siege of Aegia, 52 BCE. Both of these generals took full advantage of every resource at their disposal, to crush their enemy, and advance their cause, and engineers, along with technological advances, such as the siege tower, became a particularly important means to achieving those ends. Armageddon. With advancements in technology, war has increasingly wreaked chaos and destruction upon the lives and cities of combatants and non-combatants, and, true to the origins of the name, has sown confusion throughout time. The first armed conflict in history recorded by eyewitnesses was the Battle of Megiddo, in 1479 BCE, between Thutmose III, 1458 to 1425 BCE, of Egypt, and an alliance of former Egyptian territories under the leadership of the king of Kadesh. The Hebrew name for Megiddo is Armageddon, well known from the biblical book of Revelation, as the site of the final battle between good and evil, and has come to be used as a general term for a dramatic situation involving the end of the world. If one regards the predictions of Revelation as trustworthy, then, as the historian Davis notes, the foundation for one of the great tyrannies of history is thus foretold: the beginning and the end of military history occur at the same site. However that may be, war continues as a common extension of political disputes in modern times, and, as human beings never radically change in disposition, will continue to be employed in the future as it has been in the past, fueled and justified by the ages-old tribe mentality. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.